Revealed. The divine power of miraculous manifestation, 12 days to supernatural transformation. In a quaint English village, nestled among rolling hills, a stirring tale of hope began to unfold. It was the kind of story that awakened the soul, rekindling the flickering flames of faith. Margaret, a devoted single mother, was on the brink of despair. Her spirited teenage son, David, had fallen prey to a mysterious illness that left even the finest doctors scratching their heads. As she watched his vitality fade, Margaret's heart ached, and the weight of the community's sorrow hung heavy in the air. Their shared grief stirred a delicate waltz between hope and despair. One chilly evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Margaret sank into the aged wooden pews of St. Jude's Church. Sobs echoed softly through the candlelit sanctuary, where shadows danced like worried spirits. It was there that she met Father Thomas, the gentle priest whose steady voice carried the weight of ancient wisdom. "You know, Margaret," he said, "we are living in interesting times. There is a prophecy, an ancient promise of miraculous healings if we call upon St. Jude, the saint of desperate cases." His words washed over her, capturing her heart with hope like a soothing balm for the aching soul. Days turned into a sacred pilgrimage, 12 days infused with a newfound purpose. Each dawn brought fervent prayers, anointing oil rituals, and a reflection on Scripture as Margaret and Father Thomas aimed to coax the divine back into their lives. The villagers watched and wondered, drawn into a tapestry of collective prayer. Murmurs of faith coursed through the cobblestone streets. As the flock grew in devotion, they lit candles and sang hymns, weaving their hopes into the fabric of the very air they breathed. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as the days unwound, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Doubts began to spark among the villagers, some questioning the direction of their prayers, challenging the power of faith against that of medicine. Margaret's heart was battered. News of medical setbacks felt like arrows striking at her precious hope. One evening, kneeling alone in the cold stone church, a warm rush enveloped her. It was as if the very hand of God was cradling her spirit, igniting flickers of hope once more. Outside, the silver moon cast a radiant glow, an unwavering beacon shining over the faces of the faithful. Then it happened. In the dead of night, as whispers of holy intercession hung over the village, a wave of miraculous energy swept through like a warm breeze. David's health transformed inexplicably, his laughter echoing like a harmony of joy through their home. The village erupted into a chorus of delight, yet questions bloomed like stubborn weeds. Was this truly divine intervention, or simply a coincidence? With David thriving, a beautiful tension filled the air. A reflection on faith versus rationality danced through their conversations. The vibrant village spirit hung in the balance, as Margaret stood at the crossroads of belief and doubt, her heart longing for more divine revelations. Would they discover the true essence of their faith in this unfolding miracle? Or would they remain forever caught in the shadows of skepticism? The answers lingered tantalizingly, waiting just beyond the horizon of their collective hope. As the sun rose on the new day, Margaret awoke with a heart filled with gratitude. The sound of David's laughter floated through the air, soothing her soul. Yet, beneath the surface, unease festered. The villagers buzzed with excitement, but whispers of doubt still lingered. Could such a miracle truly be sustained? "Mother," David called, his voice vibrant, pulling her from her thoughts. She turned to see him standing in the doorway, a ray of youthful energy that seemed to illuminate the dim kitchen. The color in his cheeks, the sparkle in his eyes, they were signs of health resurrected. She rushed to him, embracing her son fiercely, tears flowing freely. "Every moment with you is a gift," she whispered, her breath mingling with joy and disbelief. But even as joy swirled around them, uncertainty loomed in the corners of Margaret's heart. She recalled the voices that questioned the power of faith, the skeptics who lingered at the edge of their shared hope. David could not be the only evidence of divine grace. The villagers needed more than just a story. They craved a demonstration of faith that could not be ignored. That afternoon, Margaret approached Father Thomas with renewed determination. "What do we do now?" she asked, the urgency of her heart visible in her eyes. "David is healed, but the village needs assurance. A miracle that speaks louder than words." Father Thomas nodded, understanding the depths of her desire. "We must organize a gathering," he proposed. "Let the power of prayer be witnessed. Let us invite all believers and skeptics alike to witness the transformation. We will set aside our doubts and allow God to reveal His presence." The following morning, the villagers received hand-painted invitations to a prayer gathering at St. Jude's Church. The simple message embraced them. "Come and witness the extraordinary." Excitement tinged with apprehension hummed through the streets. As twilight covered the village, the warmth of candlelight seeped through the church's ancient stained glass. Villagers filled the pews, their faces illuminated by flickering flames. There was a vibrant energy, but also a palpable tension, as hope and doubt mingled in the air. Margaret could feel it biting, the anxious anticipation hanging heavy. Father Thomas approached the pulpit, his heart steady yet pulsating with inspiration. "Tonight we gather not just for our David," he proclaimed, "but for every soul that has ever questioned their faith. Let this be an evening of miracles, where hearts are opened and the divine answered." Margaret watched as David stepped forward, his countenance radiant. He shared his story, how he felt the warmth of Goddess embrace, the light of hope shining through darkness. The villagers listened, enraptured, each of them trying to grasp the threads of magic woven into the very air. As the service progressed, Margaret felt an electric surge. She sensed that something was about to unfold, something profound. The atmosphere thickened, each word of prayer becoming a thread connecting every heart to a single divine source. Then, as the final hymn lifted, a silence fell, stretching across the congregation like a rich tapestry woven with expectation. It was in this stillness that the miraculous woven in their prayers began to stir. Margaret's heart raced. What awaited them in this space filled with yearning and hope? Would a divine revelation break through the veil of human skepticism? The air crackled with the promise of the miraculous, and breath held tight as they collectively leaned into the anticipation. What would happen next as they reached for the divine together? Would they witness the manifestation of answers to their fervent prayers, or were they still unaware of what God truly had in store for them? As the last echoes of the hymn dwindled, a palpable stillness enveloped St. Jude's Church. The flickering candlelight danced, casting shadows that twirled like spirits in communion with their prayers. Margaret's breath hitched as she felt a shift in the atmosphere, as if the very walls of the church were straining to hold back a tide of grace. Then it happened. A soft glow began to emerge at the altar, emanating from the crucifix that had watched over the congregation for generations. It was a light that pulsed gently, like the heartbeat of heaven. Gasps rippled through the crowd, whispering with a mingling of awe and fear. Margaret's heart quickened. Was this the sign she had beseeched God for? Father Thomas, standing transfixed by the radiant display, raised his hands high. "Behold," he exclaimed, his voice commanding yet tender. "This is no ordinary moment. Let this light be a beacon of faith. Let this be a testament to the power of belief." David, standing beside his mother, turned to her, his eyes wide with wonder. "Mother, look, can you see it?" His youthful innocence shone brighter than the light itself, capturing Margaret's fleeting doubts. This was more than a spectacle. It was the personal touch of God reaching out to his people. As murmured prayer filled the room, the once hesitant villagers began to rise from their seats, drawn toward the altar like moths to a flame. Margaret felt their collective faith swirling about them, a tapestry of hope woven with threads of supplication and desire. Faces were aglow, each person wrestling with their own doubt, yet now they stood united, witnessing something undeniably divine. Then the glow intensified, pouring forth into the midst of the congregation, and a figure emerged from the light, a presence so overwhelming, it caused hearts to tremble. Though indistinct, it was as if God's love was made visible, pouring out like water from a well. "Be still," a voice echoed, not just in ears but deep within souls, wrapping them in a gentle embrace. "For I am with you." The congregation fell silent, yet their hearts resonated with the truth. Margaret felt her own burdens lift. A weight that had clung to her spirit began to evaporate in the warmth of this divine presence. She closed her eyes, overwhelmed by a sensation of peace that transcended her worries. Suddenly, a woman, Mrs. Patterson, who had been known for her struggles, stepped forward. She hesitated, then gathered courage buoyed by faith. "Lord, if it is your will." Her voice trembled but was filled with resolve. "Heal me." In that moment, the glow enveloped her like a cocoon, illuminating her trembling figure. Gasps scattered through the church as Mrs. Patterson straightened. The listlessness that had clung to her vanished. She raised her hands, eyes wide, praising God with an authentic joy that ignited a spark in others' hearts. One by one, others followed her example, stepping into the light, seeking healing, comfort, a sign. Each request a thread connecting them to the divine weave unfolding before their eyes. Margaret exchanged glances with David. Their hearts ignited, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Here was the miracle they had yearned for, yet this was only the beginning. The atmosphere shifted again, and Margaret sensed a greater wonder approaching, a revelation yet to unfold. As they witnessed the power of God impacting their community, a new question began to swirl in her heart. What would happen next? Would they truly grasp the full depth of this divine intervention? How would their lives change in the wake of such a supernatural revelation? The warmth of hope mingled with the thrill of anticipation as the congregation leaned forward, each heart poised for what God had in store. As the brilliance of the light cascaded through the church, awe settled over the congregation like a gentle rain. Eyes widened, mouths agape. They stood as witnesses, each pulse of light reflecting their own heart's desires. Margaret could feel each soul, each pleading cry for healing and hope rising, intertwining like incense curling toward heaven. "Look at what faith can do," whispered an elder, voice barely above a breath, as if afraid to disturb this sacred moment. But the words, filled with wonder, rippled through the crowd, igniting something fierce and resilient in their hearts. Father Thomas, still guiding the light with his raised hands, seemed caught in a trance, a bridge between heaven and earth. He began to step forward, the weight of this illumination pressing him onward. "Come forth, everyone." His command was both gentle and insistent. "Let us stand in the light of his love together. Let our burdens be lifted." Margaret's heart raced as she glanced at David. His eyes sparkled with a fearless excitement, and she felt a tug within her spirit. This was a moment of transformation not just for the crowd, but for them. She took a deep breath, and with a steady resolve, they stepped forward, joining others on the altar. There was an unspoken agreement, a collective readiness to surrender, to receive. The light enveloped them as they neared, warming their skin like the sun after a long winter. Margaret felt it seep deep into her bones, chasing shadows of doubt far away. She closed her eyes again, this time inviting the presence in, allowing her spirit to embrace that profound love that radiated from the divine. "Lord, I trust you," the whisper escaped her lips, a promise born of hope. In that moment, she felt a flicker of something new, a sense of purpose unfurling within her heart. The figures surrounding her were no longer strangers. They were a family united in struggle, hope, and faith. Margaret opened her eyes slightly, catching sight of Mrs. Patterson, her face aglow with newfound vibrancy, her spirit as buoyant as a lark's song. Suddenly, a voice broke through the collective silence, deeper and more profound than before. "Healing comes not just to the body but to the spirit," it resonated, rich and warm. "Let go and let me in every wound, every worry, every stain will become your story of grace." The truth hung in the air, solid and piercing. Margaret felt tears gathering in the corners of her eyes, tears not of sorrow but of release. Each burden drawn out into the light, each problem offered up in surrender. Will you trust? The voice beckoned, echoing around the chapel with ethereal authority. David, standing beside her, nodded enthusiastically despite a flicker of doubt. I believe, he exclaimed, his voice a clear bell that rang pure and true. His response, though filled with innocence, wrapped around those present like a soothing balm. Others began to echo his declaration, rising with fervor. I believe, reverberated through the sacred space, an anthem of faith rising toward the heavens. Margaret felt a warmth overflowing within her, a bubbling joy nestled beneath layers of old griefs. Perhaps this moment was more than they ever imagined. Perhaps it was a gateway to something much larger, a calling to reveal God's power anew. Yet amidst the glorious chorus, doubt still threaded through her mind. What would happen after this? Would this light diminish once the moment passed? Would they truly grasp the enormity of what divine manifestation meant for their lives? Each face continued to glow under the luminescence, with hope intertwined in every strand. The promise of transformation loomed, a doorkeeper standing before the unknown. Margaret raised her hands, palms open, as if awaiting a gift beyond comprehension. Help us navigate this new path, Lord, she whispered earnestly, the tension in her heart dancing with anticipation. In that sacred space, they leaned into the ripple of the moment. Goddess Grace was just beginning to unfold what miracles might await them in the days to come. Would they have the courage to embrace the true power of that divine light? The answer danced on the edge of revelation, whispering of wonders yet unseen. As the congregation stood together in the glow of divine light, a profound silence enveloped the church, broken only by the faint rustling of hope. The heartfelt declarations of belief still echoed, folding over one another like waves on a tranquil shore. Each I believe was a thread weaving them closer, binding souls in a tapestry of faith. Margaret's heart raced with excitement. She stared at David, feeling their shared spirit igniting a rare fire. Do you feel it? She whispered, unable to hold back the profound joy swelling within her. He nodded wide-eyed, as if he had stepped into a realm far beyond what he ever thought possible. Suddenly, Father Thomas's voice rose above the gathered souls, laced with certainty and hope. Now is our moment to commit. Release the heavy shackles of doubt. Step boldly into the promise God has for us. His words felt like wings lifting them higher, an invitation to soar into the heavenly embrace. The light shifted, transforming as it enveloped the entire congregation. It felt alive, pulsating, writhing, weaving around them in a dance of encouragement. As Margaret reached toward it, something remarkable unfolded. She could almost see the worries and fears that had clung to her life, as if each shimmering light was carrying them away, casting them into the spirit of freedom. Tears coursed down Margaret's cheeks, each drop a crystallized moment of release. Memories of sadness, heartache, and doubt floated to the surface, yet they didn't weigh her down. Instead, they softened, like autumn leaves drifting from their branches, reminding her of the weightlessness of forgiveness. Come, beloved, let it go. The voice resonated again, coming not from anywhere outside but echoing softly within. The fears whisper but the light roars, and those who dwell in faith will find peace. Take that step toward what you believe. Around them, the congregation was gaining momentum. Margaret could hear soft sobs turn to joyous laughter. Life was blooming, and she realized this was not just about her own burdens. It was a collective awakening, a divine reminder that they were not alone on this journey. Lift your hands high, Father Thomas encouraged, gesturing toward the heavens. In this moment, we breathe in faith and breathe out all that does not serve us. Let us become vessels of light. Margaret followed suit, raising her arms. She could feel a current flow through her, surging and tingling, igniting every fiber of her being. David was beside her, caught in the whirlwind of spirituality. His laughter rang clear, infectious, coaxing others to join his celebration. "Let this moment mark a new beginning," shouted a voice from the back. Margaret turned to see Mrs. Patterson, tears shimmering like stars in her eyes, her wrinkled hands lifted high. "We are reborn today. Let us testify to his goodness." As the chorus of affirmation grew, Margaret felt deep within her soul a shift, a deep understanding blossoming. This was more than just a moment. It was a call to action. Each soul here was being asked to walk in trust, to carry the light beyond these church walls into the world, breathing life into the faith they now clung to so tightly. But then, doubt crept back in a gentle, insidious whisper. Would they truly carry this light? Would this moment of divine connection transform their everyday struggles? How would they hold on to this joy when they returned to their routines? Margaret's heart tightened slightly, her gaze shifting from the vibrant scene around her back to the altar, where shimmering halos encircled those gathered. "Help us, Lord," she breathed, a heartfelt plea riding on a wave of faith. "Help us not to forget, not to falter." And in that beat of silence that followed, she sensed a mingling of past shadows with present brightness, a promise blooming in the air. "Do not fear the unknown," the voice assured. "In every step of uncertainty, my plan is at work." What lay ahead was still a mystery, but faith had ignited, and hope was palpable. Their journey was certainly just beginning, a path illuminating colorful, unexplored terrains. Would they carry his light into the world, even when shadows loomed? As the clarity of the moment began to settle, a question glimmered like hidden treasure. What sacred truths might be discovered when they walked out that door? A gentle breeze swept through the open doors of the church, carrying with it the sweet scent of blooming flowers outside. Joy twinkled in the air, dancing between the tightly knit congregation, sparking energy and connection. Margaret felt it, a gentle warmth that spread through her chest, rising to her throat. This was no ordinary day. Something monumental was awakening within them all. Father Thomas stood before them, every line on his face aglow with divine purpose. "Remember, beloved, faith is not just a thought. It is a living flame. It thrives in action." His words ignited the souls present, sending ripples of determination through each heart. Margaret felt the truth wash over her, realizing that faith called for movement to advance and to live boldly without hesitation. David turned to her, eyes glimmering with exuberance. "Shall we step outside and share this joy?" he asked, almost with a childlike eagerness. She nodded, believing that they needed to take this light into the world that awaited them. As they made their way to the door, the atmosphere around them shifted again. The sunlight poured in, blinding yet beautiful, casting striking patterns on the cobblestones outside. Each step felt like a declaration, a soft yet fervent proclamation that they were ready to embody the light they had discovered. Outside, the world seemed different. People moved about, some hurrying to their destinations with shoulders slumped and heads bowed. Yet, as Margaret and David stepped into the light, they felt the urge to reach out to those passing by. She gently touched David's arm. "What if we shared our joy? What if we spread this light?" His smile broke wider as he understood. They approached a young woman sitting on a bench, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Hello," Margaret began, her voice soft, inviting, full of warmth. "Is everything all right?" The woman looked up, startled but curious. The sincerity in Margaret's eyes made her heart flutter. "I just feel so lost," she murmured, her voice cracking. David leaned in closer, his presence like a cocoon of safety. "You're not alone. We just had a powerful moment of faith at church. It reminded us that light is stronger than darkness." Margaret nodded, emphasizing, "You deserve to feel joy, too. Let us pray for you." Tentatively, the woman reached out, her hands trembling between them. Their prayers ascended like incense, a sweet offering to the heavens. As they prayed, Margaret felt something shift in the atmosphere. The burden of sadness was lifted, leaving an unmistakable vibration of peace. The woman blinked, a light beginning to take root in her expression. "Thank you, I feel lighter," she whispered, a blossoming smile breaking through her tears. In that moment, Margaret and David realized something wonderful. The light they felt could be shared, multiplying as it moved through their actions. Encouraged, they continued down the street, praying for others they encountered. Each touch, each kind word unfolded like petals welcoming the sun. Laughter erupted in unexpected places. Hearts were turned toward hope time and time again. But amidst this incredible uplift, Margaret felt a twinge of unease rise within her. A shadow of doubt lingered. What if they don't feel it? She questioned, though she tried to shake it away. What if we fail to live up to this new flame? David sensed her hesitation. It's not on us to hold the light. It's our privilege to share what has been given to us, he assured, gentle and resolute. Margaret nodded, realizing that their role was one of trust, allowing the divine essence to flow through them. Still, a question lingered in her heart. How far could this new light spread? What transformations awaited them in the days to come? As they stood under the sun, souls intertwined in buoyant joy, a sacred mystery hung in the air. Would they have the courage to keep seeking, to keep believing? What more would be revealed as they walked this collective path of divine unfolding? The day unfolded like a flower, each moment dipped in divine grace and wonder. Margaret and David strolled through the heart of their town, embers of faith igniting every interaction. The world around them came to life, no longer just a backdrop but a canvas for their outpouring of love and light. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. They approached a group of children playing in a park. Margaret knelt down, her heart swelling at the laughter spilling out like music. "Hello, young friends. Do you know how special you are?" she exclaimed, her voice bright. The children paused, eyes wide and curious. "Special how?" one boy asked, tilting his head. "You're a piece of joy in this world, and you can spread joy wherever you go," David added, his warmth wrapping around them like sunshine. The children grinned, energized by the idea. Suddenly, Margaret had an idea. "Let us make a joy chain. Whenever you feel happy, tell someone else a kind word. Can you do that?" Their giggles erupted into cheers, excitement bubbling like a fountain. David exchanged a delighted look with her. As they kept walking, Margaret felt the air shift. A heaviness lingered at the corner of her spirit, contrasting against the vibrant energy. It was a gentle tug, a whisper that pressed upon her heart. Was there more? "Let us check on Mr. Jenkins," David suggested, recalling their elderly neighbor who tended to keep to himself. He brought life to the worn garden behind his house, but his spirit had seemed dim lately. Arriving at his gate, Margaret knocked lightly. It creaked open, revealing Mr. Jenkins with a furrowed brow, surrounded by wilting flowers. "Ah, what a surprise," he said, forcing a smile. "Mr. Jenkins, we thought we'd bring some joy your way today," Margaret said, her voice laced with eagerness. But he looked away, sorrow etched on his features. "That's kind, dears. I appreciate it. But I'm afraid I'm just a lonely old man these days. Too much on my mind." David stepped closer, his voice calming. "You're not alone, sir. Sharing burdens is part of what connects us. How about we pray with you?" Mr. Jenkins hesitated but nodded slowly. They gathered in the shaded garden. As they prayed, Margaret felt a twist in the air, a gentle warmth spreading through her, a tangible pulse of hope. "Lord, be with Mr. Jenkins today. Fill his heart with comfort and light," David said, his voice strong yet tender. When they finished, the old man's tears fell like rain on parched earth. I haven't felt that warmth in so long," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Thank you." He reached out to shake their hands, even pulling them into a heartfelt embrace. In that moment, Margaret realized the divine connection, that every instance of shared light was a ripple in an ocean of hope. But with this revelation came a new wave of uncertainty. Was she truly ready to embrace the responsibility of this light? Could she remain steadfast, acting as a vessel of love amid turmoil? As they parted from Mr. Jenkins, Margaret voiced her worries to David. "What if tomorrow is too hard? What if we falter?" His gaze met hers. "Faith is walking forward, even when the path is unclear. There will be challenges, no doubt. But every step taken with grace, the light will lead us through." The sun began its descent, painting the sky with shades of gold and rose. They marveled at the beauty unfolding before them, yet behind it loomed the heaviness they both felt. Still, they would press on. Little did they know, the very next journey awaited them just beyond the horizon, a call for help that would challenge everything they believed about faith, surrender, and the power of miraculous transformation they had barely begun to understand. What lay ahead would test their spirits like never before. Would they be prepared to face the unknown, to dig deep into their faith when the call for action grew more demanding? The sun had dipped below the horizon, cloaking the town in a soft twilight. Margaret and David walked hand in hand, their hearts still buoyed by the warmth of Mr. Jenkins' gratitude. Yet the heaviness lingered, a shadow uncertainly trailing them. As they passed the corner cafe, the inviting scent of fresh coffee and baked goods wafted out. But today it felt distant, an echo of normalcy. Margaret glanced up at David, who was gazing across the street, his brow slightly furrowed. "David, what are you thinking?" she asked softly. "There is a woman I see sitting on the bench most days," he replied thoughtfully. "I think she is struggling. I don't know her name, but I see her lost in her thoughts, just staring into the distance. Today feels right to reach out, don't you think?" Margaret nodded, excitement bubbling in her chest once more. "Pure joy awaits us, you know. That divine spark can illuminate the darkest corners." They approached the bench. The woman was wrapped in a gray scarf, clutching a small bag that seemed almost too heavy for her frail hands. She looked up as they approached, shadowed eyes revealing a well of deep sadness. "Hello," Margaret greeted gently. "We were just passing by and we felt compelled to connect with you." The woman offered a weak smile but said nothing. David, sensing her hesitation, continued, "We both had our share of struggles. Would you allow us to share a moment with you, maybe even pray together?" Her lips trembled, and she gazed into their eyes like they were flickers of light in her darkness. "I don't know. I haven't felt anything in such a long time. I don't want to burden you with my troubles." Margaret's heart soared at the vulnerability. "You could never be a burden. In this moment, we're simply here to listen and pray if you're okay with that." For several long moments, silence wrapped around them like a gentle embrace. Finally, the woman sighed, as if a heavy weight was shifting within her. "I've lost everything I held dear. My husband passed away, and I don't know how to fill that void. Each day is heavier than the last." David reached out, placing a comforting hand on hers. "It's okay to grieve, but you're not alone. Why not let us pray for peace to fill that void, and hope to return to your heart?" As they prayed, Margaret felt the air electrify, the weight of sorrow bending and breaking. It was as if a door to a neglected room within her spirit had been thrown open. She spoke words that flowed from her heart, words of renewal and light, a plea for transformation and healing. The woman's eyes brimmed with tears, and with each amen, Margaret sensed a gradual release. It was a beautiful revelation their faith, mingled with her grief, was lifting burdens unseen. "Thank you," the woman finally whispered, her voice fragile yet bright. "I feel lighter. I don't know how it happened, but it feels like a weight left me." As they parted ways, Margaret felt a surge of hope. She looked at David, who smiled back at her, knowing they had ventured into another sacred moment together. Still, a question tugged at her heart. "If this is what connection can do, how far can we go?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. David's eyes flashed with encouragement. "That's the challenge before us. We'll keep reaching out, even when the call grows louder. But remember, true transformation may not be a straight line." They walked away, determined to follow the divine whispers tugging at their spirits. But little did they know, challenges loomed just beyond their understanding. A deeper call awaited, one that would shatter their expectations and test their willingness to surrender. What miracle would they unearth in the days to come? The following day began with the kind of sun-soaked glow that seemed to breathe life into everything it touched. Margaret and David walked through the park, where birds sang sweet melodies, a reminder of nature's joy. Yet, their hearts were charged with a deeper feeling, a yearning for connection and purpose. "Look over there," David said, a glint of hope in his eyes. He pointed toward a small group gathered around the fountain. The laughter of children mixed with deeper voices, creating a beautiful tapestry of sound, captivated them both. "What about them?" Margaret asked, intrigued. "I sense there's more to their gathering. Maybe we should join and see how we can contribute our light." He took her hand, urging her toward the vibrant scene. As they approached, a young mother cradled her baby, while older children splashed in the water. The laughter faded slightly as the children noticed David and Margaret, their faces brightening with curiosity. The adults exchanged warm smiles, welcoming them into the moment. "What's the occasion?" David asked cheerfully. "Oh, just a little celebration," said the mother, her eyes sparkling. "We thought it would be lovely to honor our kids' recent achievements. They graduated from the local school this week." Margaret felt her heart swell. "That's wonderful. Do you mind if we join in the celebration?" "Not at all," the mother replied, gesturing for them to sit. They shared stories of resilience, joy, and faith as they huddled together. With each shared laugh, the weight from yesterday felt lighter, the burdens of sorrow lifted. David felt a surge within him, a sense that they were partaking in something sacred, a reminder of community spirit. After sharing stories, one young girl with sparkling eyes spoke up. "Can you tell us about how you found your happiness?" Margaret smiled warmly, inspired by the innocence of the question. "Happiness isn't always a destination. Sometimes it's the connections we make that give us light. We find joy in serving others and sharing love. That's what makes our hearts fuller." As she spoke, an unexplainable warmth filled the air. Margaret noticed the children's faces lighting up at her words, as if seeds of hope were being planted in tender soil. "Can we pray together?" David added gently. "We can ask for joy to fill our hearts and guide our steps." Hands reached out, small and large, eager to connect in this spiritual moment. David led them in a simple yet profound prayer, lifting voices that mingled with the sound of water splashing. In that moment, Margaret felt a divine energy ripple through the crowd. Every soul seemed to vibrate with newfound hope. When the prayer concluded, the laughter returned, but it was somehow different, deeper, richer, imbued with the spirit of shared purpose. As they prepared to leave, a boy hurried to Margaret and tugged her sleeve. "Can we do this every week?" It felt magical. Tears welled in Margaret's eyes. "Every week is a beautiful idea. We can spread joy together." As they waved goodbye and headed home, a sense of excitement pulsed through David's heart. "What we felt today, it felt alive. What if we tried to do this more often? Gather people, share joy, share stories?" Margaret nodded eagerly, enthusiasm bubbling within her. Yet, a flicker of hesitation darted through her mind. "But what if we face obstacles? What if the response isn't what we hope for?" David squeezed her hand tighter. "That's just part of the journey, love. Growth often comes from challenges. Let us stay open to where the Spirit leads." As twilight began its descent again, they moved toward home, determined to embrace the mystery ahead. Yet, even as they discussed their dreams, a shadow flickered in the distance, an unexpected challenge that loomed ahead. What trials awaited them on this path of connection and joy? The following days unfolded like a beautiful tapestry woven from threads of faith and courage. Every gathering blossomed, each prayer igniting fresh sparks in the hearts of the villagers. Margaret and David's joyful outreach began to draw even more people, faces alight with hope, souls eager to share in the warmth of divine connection. As they stepped into the new week, anticipation buzzed in the air. The village buzzed with excitement about their next gathering, and word had spread like wildfire. Yet with every flicker of joy, shadows of uncertainties lingered, questions of permanence, of truth, and the trials that lay ahead. Would their gathered faith hold when faced with doubt? On a crisp Monday, Margaret stood in their small kitchen, a sense of urgency threading through her heart. "David," she called, laying the table for their evening gathering. "What if not everyone believes in our light? What if we stumble in our mission?" He turned, a reassuring smile on his face. "Mom, it's not about perfection. It's about showing up with open hearts, trusting that God will guide us." His words settled within her like a prayer. They reminded her of that divine presence, the warm embrace that had enveloped her in the church, the miraculous light that drew them into communion with their neighbors. That night, the congregation assembled at St. Jude's. Candles flickered like stars in the night sky, filling the room with warmth and hope. Faces glowed, illuminated by a divine expectancy. But Margaret noticed flickers of unease in the eyes of some. Doubts hung thick, a weight pressing against their fragile hope. Father Thomas stepped forward, addressing the community with a calm but powerful voice. Tonight, we invite a new journey, a journey of confession, healing, and authentic connection, all through the lens of love. He encouraged everyone to share their truths, to unburden their hearts. At first, the words came slowly, heartbeats palpable in the air. But soon, the stories poured forth like rain, revealing weaknesses, fears, and struggles. I felt lost, a voice trembled. I lost my wife, another wept. With each confession, a thread of fear unraveled, weaving together their wounds into a tapestry of communal healing. Margaret felt her spirit swell. "We are not alone," she proclaimed. "Together we are stronger than our struggles." Then the atmosphere shifted. The soft glow of the candles intensified. The warm presence that once enveloped them in solitude now grew into something more powerful. Suddenly, a young man rose amidst the gathering, his voice filled with raw emotion. "I've battled addiction for years. I saw the light and I want to fight. I need help." Gasps erupted around the room, eyes wide with reverence. Could this be the moment they had been waiting for? Their collective faith surged. Without hesitation, Margaret and David approached him, offering their hands in solidarity. "Together, we will walk this journey," David assured, his heart open wide. They all prayed, their voices a chord harmonizing against the backdrop of despair, lifting him up in prayer till the weight eased, and hope blazed anew. Then, a hush fell over the room as Father Thomas stepped back into the light, the glow around him pulsating with infinite warmth. "Now is the time to release our doubts and stand in this collective faith," he declared, urging everyone to believe not just with their hearts but with their actions. Margaret felt a surge of purpose. Let this be a moment that binds us. Let us create a support network and outreach to bring hope to every corner of our lives. The congregation erupted into fervent murmurs. Ideas sprang forth, illuminating the path they could travel together. A community garden. One suggested weekly prayer walks. Another proposed. Voices melded into a powerful blanket of love, wrapping around each hurt, each fear, like a divine embrace that transcended their individual struggles. Yet, amidst the blossoming excitement, a shadow flickered in Margaret's heart. Could this newfound energy withstand the trials they would inevitably face? Would their volatile world throw obstacles in their way, casting doubt upon this flickering flame? The hour late, as the last prayers lifted, Father Thomas concluded, "Remember, beloved, faith is action. It's not the absence of fear but the courage to press on." His words buried deep within her. As they began to disperse, Margaret felt a shifting surge of confidence. She realized that the strength of their connection lay not in never facing hardship, but in their willingness to face it together. Each step they took into the unknown was a step toward greater light, a testament to the power of shared love. Hand in hand, Margaret and David stepped into the night, invigorated by the evening's outpouring of faith. They walked toward home, the street lamps casting a golden hue over them, but as they reached their gate, they saw a familiar figure standing alone outside. Mrs. Patterson, eyes wide and trembling. "Please come quickly. My husband is unwell," she stammered, her voice edged with urgency. Rushing to her side, Margaret took a deep breath, steeling herself for the journey ahead. "Let us," she urged softly, her heart racing with adrenaline. David gripped her hand tighter. They were stepping into the deep end, now a real test of faith, compassion, and love. But fueled by their collective light, they felt ready. Ready to confront the shadows, to weave possibilities into existence, and to witness the divine power of healing once more. What miracles awaited just beyond that threshold? What transformations might they witness when they knocked down the walls of doubt and stepped boldly into the promise of hope? Only time would tell, but as they hurried after Mrs. Patterson, an undeniable truth wrapped around their spirits. Together, their faith unleashed a strength that could overcome even the darkest of nights. If you have witnessed the power of faith in your life, it's time to share your journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this message of hope. Comment your reactions and testimonies about this ending. Let us keep the conversation alive. And most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of love and struggle turned into light. Together, we are vessels of His glory. Don't wait even one more second to support this movement.